Glass starts attacking him, but Raphtalia comes over and proclaims that she is Naofumi's sword, so no one from their world will ever suffer again. Glass rushes in and Naofumi blocks her attack, then swaps to the rage shield to push her away, but she continues to get back up. Glass prepares to go all out while Naofumi starts his Black Force activity. He reveals that when all the waves are gone, he's going back home, but he will protect this world for his harem to continue living in. He begins casting his rage skill and gets ready to summon the bear trap, but he's stopped at the last moment. A knight launches barrels of wine at them for Naofumi to destroy and make Glass intoxicated. He walks over to the defeated Glass, but Lark and Therese arrives to reveal that the wave time has ran out. So they begin to be transported back to their world. After the waves disappear, the queen declares that they've won the battle and they begin celebrating. The next day, Naofumi begins thinking about Glass's party and realizes that they're much stronger than the heroes. So he decides that they'll start recruiting more members into his group to fight off the waves, and Filo conveniently finds a knight in the river. Rishia tells them that she tried breathing water because the bow hero kicked her out of his party for allegedly breaking his accessory. But Naofumi believes they're just jealous since she was more useful in the waves. He invites her to join his party and promises to help her get strong enough to style on her former allies. They decide that it's time to leave the island, and the queen thanks them for all their help during the waves. She asks Naofumi what he wants for an award, and he decides to do something for Raphtalia. They head back to the shopkeeper to get everyone some new gear, but they seem to be hiding something from the best girl. They leave to go get the queen's reward, and Raphtalia realizes that they're near her home. Her friend runs over to meet her while the noble and Melty follows close behind. Melty announces that by order of the queen, Naofumi has become the lord of the demi-human domain within their kingdom. He carries Raphtalia over to the shipyard and asks her to teach everyone to fish. Then heads over to the Great Hall, where she sees that the Kung Fu Grandma along with the medicine and magic store owners have moved there too. Naofumi takes her on the roof where she sees that everything is being rebuilt. He tells her that they will build an army here to defend against the wave. But Raphtalia stops him and begins crying because he's preparing them for when he isn't here anymore. She begs him to live in this world with her even after they've defeated all the waves. Naofumi tells her that he wasn't sure what to do next, but he has decided to stay and make this new world his home, before reminding Raphtalia that she is his sword. It's revealed that privacy does not exist as Filo comes in for a group hug, while they raise the demi-human flag to stand tall over Naofumi's domain. A few weeks later, we find Naofumi walking through the rebuilt city. He checks on Rishia's training with Kung Fu Grandma, and tells her that even though the costume boosts her stats, she shouldn't depend on it. But Rishia tells them that she tries harder while inside the costume since she's more confident. They see a flock of bats heading towards them, but Filo comes in clutch along with Raphtalia to send the unholy creatures to meet Bat Jesus. Naofumi arrives to see the monsters slaughtered and takes a sample to discover that they're familiars. He notices that the wave's countdown has stopped as an immense pressure falls over them that's shown to be coming from something far out in the distance. They head to the royal capital to have an emergency meeting with the queen. All the heroes have encountered the bat monsters, so the queen reveals that it's an effect from a legendary monster that revives every few centuries called the spirit tortoise. The worthless heroes decide that they want nothing to do with a raid boss and leaves the room with only Naofumi remaining. The queen tells him that many people have already passed from the calamity and it will visit his domain soon if nothing is done, so he's forced to help. They go over to the shopkeeper to get a weapon for Rishia, but she reveals that no matter what she uses, she'll always be a failure. Raphtalia comes up with a 100 IQ idea and takes the poor girl to the circus to become one of Naofumi's workers who doesn't get paid. Raphtalia explains that if Rishia gives up her freedom, the shield hero's power would transfer to her and make her much stronger than the bow hero's party. Naofumi is hesitant to get another servant, but Rishia begs him to go through with it. The traitor forms the contract between them and she officially joins his harem. But Naofumi tells her that she'll have to train hard to gain the bow hero's respect, and Rishia thanks him for believing in her. They begin their journey towards the spirit tortoise while stopping along the way to catch some fish to turn into their dinner. While sitting by the campfire, Filo starts talking to Vittoria and informs Naofumi that if he still can't work together with the other three heroes, he needs to take down the giant turtle. so he decides to journey into the spirit tortoise kingdom. They arrive inside the region and hears a rumor that the other 3 heroes have passed, so Rishia goes to find out if it's true. Naofumi stops her from running off, then tells Filo to ask Vittoria what happened, and she reveals that all the heroes are still alive. A horde of monsters suddenly shows up and begins attacking all the villagers around them. Our party begins defending everyone from the invading army of merciless creatures, while Naofumi taunts all the monsters and lead them away so he can blow them off, but more of them begins arriving on the battlefield. He activates his Black Force energy and uses his rage skill to wipe out all the remaining monsters around him. But the ability drained a lot of his stamina. Naofumi's harem goes down to check on him as a mysterious woman shows up and asks them to send her to heaven so the attacks can end. But the tortoise begins roaring and the woman disappears without a trace. Naofumi attends a meeting with all the nations affected by the attacks. It's revealed that the ruler of the Spirit Tortoise Land and his entire family has gone to heaven, but the giant turtle has now stopped to take a break. They decide that they'll call on the 7-star heroes to join the fight. The queen explains that these heroes have vassal weapons that select their users from either this world or another, but they're still weaker than cardinal heroes like Naofumi. The mysterious woman suddenly enters the meeting and it's revealed that she's the concubine of the fallen king of this nation. She reveals that she's a familiar of the spirit tortoise, similar to the monsters that are attacking people. However, since she's a human type, her job was to infiltrate the kingdom to cause a war, so they can gather souls to stop the timer of the waves if the heroes can no longer defend against it. But someone has broken the seal prematurely, which forced the Torterra to go on a rampage. Naofumi asks her how to stop it, and she reveals the super secret information that if you take off something's head it will no longer move. All the world leaders begins arguing over who should take command of the armies and take credit for defeating the raid boss. But Naofumi gets up and scolds them for being idiots before declaring that he will deal with it himself to protect his territory. Raphtalia goes back to the group to report what happened and sees that Kung Fu Grandma and Eclair has arrived to help them. They explain that Eclair is the lord of the land that Naofumi's domain reside inside, and she has been training their soldiers to repent for her late father failing to stop what happened to Raphtalia's village in the first wave. The next day, Naofumi makes a plan on how to defeat the spirit tortoise with the other generals and sees an abandoned fortress in the distance that he decides to blow up as a trump card. He tells everyone to head back to figure out a way to take its head, while Rishia goes with Ost to find information on the turtle. Everyone begins doing their best to prepare for the raid boss's arrival, but the giant mutated turtle has begun to make its move. Eclair starts off the raid by commanding the royal army to march forth, while Naofumi rides beside them and gives everyone a moral boost before they get massacred. They see the army of familiars coming towards them and prepares to do battle. Filo heads off in front so Naofumi can taunt the monsters away from the main army and gives them the chance to face the spirit tortoise directly. Eclair begins leading her men into a narrow entrance while Naofumi gets blocked off by monsters and decides to take them all out. Ost steps up and casts a spell to introduce all her siblings to the floor, so our party can massacre her family while they can do nothing to defend themselves. The Secret Service reports to them that the turtle was not stopped by the ambush. However, they managed to injure one of its legs before ending their subscription to life. But the commander of the Spirit Tortoise Nation stayed back to sacrifice himself and avenge his fallen monarch. Everybody goes over to the fallen animal, but they have no idea how to take off its thinker. The monster enters its second phase and begins firing long-ranged abilities to slaughter all who remains around it. Naofumi tells everyone to go in the carriage and tells the agent to send out the mages. Eclair sees Naofumi heading towards the raid boss and decides to follow him into danger with all her men. But some of the army lacks plot armor and does not survive the destruction that the turtle is causing. Naofumi closes in on the turtle, but another familiar blocks its path, so Ost holds it down with her magic while the knight steps in front of him to attack the creature. So Naofumi can go on ahead to take down the main monster before it can get back up. The mages finishes their chant and brings down judgment to burn a hole into the monster's breather. Raphtalia and Filo takes the chance to use a team ultimate that causes its wound to bleed, and Naofumi launches an air shield to keep it open while Ost comes in clutch to give him a buff and make the hole bigger. Rishia uses support magic so the dream team can charge at the monster to separate its thinker from its body and brings an end to the raid. The armies begin cheering for the victory they manage to pull off while Naofumi is saddened because Ost passed away along with the turtle. But she's revealed to still be alive and tells them that the turtle has not gone to the Shadow Realm. They decide to go on the spirit turtles back to find a way to bring an end to the monster. Ost leads them to a village that was built on the turtles while it slept and calls the royal army to recover the bodies of the fallen. Rishia and Raphtalia is taking the scene very badly, but Ost is praying for their souls, so Rishia decides to join her while the soldiers grieve for their loss. They find a temple in the distance and enters it to find a diagram of the spirit tortoise where it's revealed that Rishia has a talent in translating ancient writings. They discover some drawing in Japanese that Naofumi goes over to read. Ost arrives and says that she knows how to end the turtle, but the temple started collapsing and they're forced to leave or become pancakes. The agent says that the turtle will revive soon, but Ost tells them that to defeat the spirit tortoise they must travel inside its body and destroy the heart. Naofumi sends back the Queen Eclair and Kung Fu Grandma along with Rishia, but she tells them that she wants to accompany them because she's a member of their party. They travel inside the shrine to enter the turtle's body, but they're suddenly attacked by adventurers. Raphtalia brightens the area and they begins to behave very suspicious, so she uses light magic to show their true form. It's revealed that the adventurers are really the heroes from the other world. Naofumi asks what they're doing here and Lark tells him that his party is here to defeat the person who broke the seal, because he's a world hopper who goes around releasing legendary beasts to cause untold destruction onto worlds. Lark asks for an alliance, but Naofumi refuses and says that if they don't attack he won't either. The two groups part ways peacefully and continues their journey deeper within the cave. Naofumi comes upon another dragon hourglass, but this one shows how much souls the spirit turtle has collected. And Ost explains that when it's full, a shield should be summoned to protect the world from the waves. They move on and walk until they find the monster's mouth, where Ost opens a pathway that leads directly to its heart. Our party finds its blood pumper, but a man comes from behind it and reveals that he's the book vassal holder. Naofumi asks what happened to the other heroes, but he refuses to tell them. Naofumi tells him to go back to his world and cause trouble, so he wishes them farewell before the heart's defense activates and begins blasting them. Filo lands an attack, but Ost takes damage from it as well. Raphtalia goes to land a finishing blow while looking at her friend, but goes through with it to protect her world from destruction. Ost meets with the spirit tortoise and begins to regain all her lost memories. She awakens from her short nap and reveals that the turtle is still alive. She casts a spell to create a hole in the ground and tells them to leave before it fully revives itself. The turtle had regenerated to face the entire army while Naofumi's party arrives at its core. The book vassal welcomes them to the room and reveals that Ost is not a familiar, but she's actually the spirit tortoise herself. Ost reveals that the true way to defeat the turtle is to destroy the heart and head simultaneously. But the book vassal shows them that he's using the other three heroes as a battery to power up his monster. The turtle begins charging an attack to wipe them out, but Vittoria arrives on the battlefield to tank the blast and begins to push back the monsters. Then tell Naofumi that when he destroys the heart she will divide its neck. Lark arrives to join the party and goes to side with Naofumi, but the book heroes tries to form an alliance with them since they also wants to destroy this world. They refuse him because their vassal weapons is disgusted by his action. The book hero reveals that he conquered his weapon and summons a flaming bird to roast them, but Naofumi blocks it so Raphtalia and Filo can land an attack. He explains that his barrier draws power from the three idiots and causes them immense pain. He summons arrows from his book and everyone works together to block his attack. Ost prepares to open a hole to the heart, but he uses gravity magic to introduce them to the ground. He begins taunting Naofumi and tests if he has a foot fetish while Raphtalia is powerless to do anything about it. Rishia begins to stand up and slowly walks towards him. She says he uses other people's power instead of his own because he's actually very weak without it. He begins attacking, but she tanks everything he has and dashes towards him to aim for the head. He launches more fireballs at her, but she starts to hide in the smoke. While he's distracted, Ost goes over to give Naofumi the powers of the spirit tortoise. He accepts her gift to cast the most powerful spell known to his world. Raphtalia and Filo launches an attack while Ost opens a doorway to the heart. The book vassal tries to stop them, but Rishia reminds him that she's gonna give him an ass beating. She manages to push him back, so he casts his strongest attack, but she gets the waifu boost and slays the flames and cut through the ice to shatter it. He begins using the heroes as hostages, so she breaks open the prison and places a sword at his breather. He puts up a barrier and continues attacking, but it has no effect. On the outside, the turtle charges a blast at Vittoria, but the mages comes in clutch to match it in a key blast power struggle. They begin to lose, but Vittoria charges forward to give the turtle a new breathing hole, allowing the skill to blow its mind. Filo signals to them that it's time to destroy the heart, and the barrier surrounding the core is broken. The book vassal reveals that he has a backup plan to protect the core with all the souls that he has gathered, but Naofumi had enough of his bullshit and activates his black force energy. He begins casting his rage skill, but can't bring himself to take Ost's life along with the turtle's core. The book vassal begins laughing because he has won, but Ost activates the power that she placed inside his shield. It transforms him into a magical girl and summons blasters that she aims at the spirit tortoise core to destroy it and bring an end to this calamity. Ost lies unmoving on the floor while the book hero reveals that he still kept some of the souls that was collected and uses it to open a portal to another world so he can escape. Naofumi asks Ost why she did it, and she explains that he will no longer need to use the Wrath Shield because she has left something more powerful within him. Lark calls him over and tells them that they will head after the book hero to bring an end to this. But Ost tells Naofumi to go with them before the portal closes. He calls over his party to fulfill her last wish and jumps into another world. While Ost's life comes to an end and her soul ascends to a better place. Her spirit sparkles from the sky and spreads life everywhere it lands, and Vittoria prays for her soul to find peace.
Like for a cat girl, subscribe for a waifu, and remember to stay swifty.
Ew.